have to look at a good infrastructure. You need that good infrastructure to attract the kinds of jobs that need to be here. And it's something that is the highest priority for me. We have to really look at how we finance our infrastructure, and the way we do it now will never get ahead of the curve. So I am in favor of supporting an infrastructure bond so that we can take care of our infrastructure, the maintenance of it, and then making sure that we bring on that infrastructure that we need in the future to maintain and support the economic development of this community. So that's something that I will support.
Infrastructure, we have a huge infrastructure deficit, as everybody is aware of in Chula Vista, and I believe that the voters should be offered the choice if they want to go the bond route. I think it's very important to see the nexus between economic development and good fiscal stewardship of the city with infrastructure. Because if we don't have economic development, we don't have revenues, we can't put more money into infrastructure maintenance and repair. And maintenance is very important on the east side in all the new neighborhoods. If we don't maintain those roads, they're going to look like the worst streets on the west side and cost a whole lot more to fix. So it's a delicate balancing act, if you will, to maintain what needs to be maintained before it becomes really cost prohibitive. But it all comes back to economic development, to the options that are available to us. We need to put more every year into our infrastructure deficits, but we also need to be building our reserves. And so a bond is a good possibility, but it's something the voters will have to determine. Thank you.
Infrastructure is very, very critical. And we had the same dilemma in the early 1990s when we were looking at East Lake and Ojai Ranch Town Center and so forth. And we planned for the infrastructure. We put in the fire stations. We expanded the BRT and had right-of-ways, which will be starting in 2015, bus rapid transit. We looked at libraries and infrastructure and road maintenance. And all of this is critical. And, you know, it's really very realistic to look at. We can't put that on the backs of taxing and taxing and taxing. You know, if my colleagues want to go forth with an infrastructure bond, you know, I think when you get the Bayfront moving forward and you get your projects coming in, like you did, it's like the chicken and egg. You get your projects in and you start receiving revenues, then you have to prioritize your budget. And so it's a two-step process. The first step is to ensure that your projects that are bringing money into the city, those coffers are engaged, online, and ready to go. And the second step of this process is budget priority, and that's a decision that all 5 council members must make on behalf. But we can do it and provide the infrastructure without raising taxes, and that's the position that I think our citizens expect us to do and figure it out, and we've done it. That's the difference that experience provides for you. It's not talking a good game, and it's not advocating what you think people like. It's that to live it and make a difference, and we can do it again.
I'm of the opinion that Chula Vista's future is now. We have been a better community for the city of San Diego for a very long time. We have 80-some people leaving our city every day to work outside of our city. This is not good. We definitely have an imbalance. We need to attract more businesses. Manufacturing, we need to be the headquarters for manufacturing businesses across the border. We need to recognize that we are epicenter of a Cali Baja mega region, and we need to exploit that and use that as a strategy to help us attract more business to fix that imbalance, because we definitely have an imbalance, and we need to be have more choices. We need to look at the university as job creation possibilities. We have an innovation center along with the university that should change the whole landscape of Chula Vista in terms of how we are viewed. We will be participating in emerging economies, green economies, and all different kinds of manufacturing, and can be, we have a research center, so all these things will eventually change that balance, including our Bayfront development. But yes, we do have an imbalance, and we are well on the way of correcting.
Everybody loves to live in Chula Vista and to play in Chula Vista, but unfortunately 87% of the jobs people employed in the city of Chula Vista are outside of the city of Chula Vista. But as we captured in the 1990s, we can capture that again, because there is an imbalance in the housing market. And there isn't any reason that we can't bring those revenues in to provide the balances we need in the budget to make a difference. And you know, it's law of supply and demand. And now with the increase in housing prices and the increase in demand for houses, this is the time to capture and increase the opportunity for people to purchase homes and expand densities to allow and capture those funds, because we brought a lot of revenues to the city, and we'll be able to do that again in this opportunity to be able to expand, in fact, increase the density so that we have more people who will be able to afford housing and will be able to participate, live here, work here, and live. Thank you.
Yes, Wendy, the city of Chula Vista has been too reliant on developer impact fees and residential development, and much to the situation that we encountered when the housing market collapsed, and we saw foreclosures, and we saw building permits come to a screech, and we had to lay off a third of our employees in the city of Chula Vista, and that's because we were so dependent on those developer fees. What we need to do as a city council is we have to hold the line when we are pressured by the developers to convert our precious industrial and commercial land space into residential. We really have to watch that and be firm about it, because we can try to recruit businesses all we want, but if we don't have that path for them to put their plant down, if we don't have those commercial buildings for them to move into, then we're not going to get them here anyway. If we don't have the land set aside for industrial and commercial, we won't achieve those economic development goals that we're all talking about. Each one of us here talks about we need good jobs, but you can't just say that you need good jobs. You have to set the table for those companies, and we don't do it by allowing developers to amend general plans and turn commercial into residential. I think we learned a hard lesson in the 90s, and we cannot repeat that again.
Absolutely not. You know, the workings of the government need to be available where the citizens can have access. And I would be very adamant to move the council meetings back to 6 p.m. at night. It's ridiculous to have it 2 o'clock. People who are working can have access, and you know what? There's a lot of good ideas, and they don't necessarily come just from the 5 elected officials of the city council. And that's why you have people come to the council to provide input, and I'm very much to return to city council meetings in the evening, so if a citizen wants to provide input, they have the opportunity to do so and not tied up at work. Quite frankly, I think moving the city council meetings back to 2 p.m. was convenience of the elected officials. And that's not what you're elected to do. You're elected to represent the citizens and be accessible to them and have an opportunity to be able to ensure that if additional input. So no, very much I want to see the council meetings back to 6 o'clock. So all of you would like to have an opportunity to testify before the council and provide input, because that's a very important source of information.
I agree 100% with Jerry. Jerry and I served at a time where, and when I came on council, quite frankly, they told me that they had to move the meetings from 2 o'clock for the convenience of the staff and the council. And that's not what this is all about. It's not for our communities. It's for the public to be able to participate. So yes, when I'm there, I am going to change it to 6 o'clock. You know, Jerry and I used to be in meetings where we were in closed session until 2 o'clock in the morning. Too bad, so sad, that's our job, okay? So, and it's our job to make sure that we're available to you and accessible to you. Thank you.
Yes, I I'm open to changing the meeting times, but I do need to state that it really wasn't a question of convenience. I don't know about all of you, but I'm a morning person. And the first year I was on the council, more often than not, we had meetings that went till midnight and beyond. And we were making very important decisions. We had members of the public with their kids in tow at 10 o'clock, exasperated because the item hadn't come up yet for them that they wanted to speak on, and they had to take their kids home to go to bed. So there are two sides to this, and I don't think there's perfection. Maybe it should be 4 o'clock instead of 2 o'clock. One of the reasons that our city manager wanted to do this was to save dollars. We were cutting everywhere we could think of. Any dollars we could recover here and there, we did so. And what we found out is when we had important projects that went to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and we had attorneys there that the city was paying, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars an hour, that became quite expensive. So it was a cost-cutting measure, and it was a way that we could be more effective with our brain power and make decisions earlier, important decisions earlier. But I tell you what we have done, since we started having meetings earlier, is that we have timed certain items. Whenever there's a controversial item where it's going to bring out members of the public, we make it timed certain when we know the public can be there.
So to clarify your position, you do support moving it back to a
I'm
later time,
open
but-
to a good discussion. I'd like to see what, I'd like to hear from all of you, from others. Just give it some more thought, but I'm very open to it. But then I just want people to know what the downside is.